They said it couldn't be done again. They said no one would ever repeat what Lewis Hamilton did at Interlagos 2021. And yet, 4 years later, Max Verstappen did something that made the entire Formula One world stop and compare. But here is the truth. You can't compare two different storms unless you understand the wind that created them. Let's go back to 2021. Hamilton's Mercedes was the ultimate weapon. But that weekend in Brazil, he started with everything against him. A disqualification from qualifying for a DRS irregularity. Last on the grid for the sprint. Then another 5-place penalty for an engine change. He began at the bottom and climbed like a man possessed. Every lap was a statement. Every overtake, a declaration of intent. He wasn't just chasing points, he was fighting for survival in a title race that had reached boiling point. When he crossed the line first, it wasn't just a victory. It was defiance turned into motion. The crowd roared, the internet exploded, and Formula One was reminded why Hamilton is one of the greatest ever. Now, fast forward to 2025. Different era, different regulations, different Max Verstappen. He wasn't chasing a title this time, he was chasing himself. After a disastrous qualifying, the Red Bull looked lost. No grip, no balance, no rhythm. The team decided to start from the pit lane, changing engine components, floor, and setup. It was a gamble, and somehow, it worked. Max carved through the field like a surgeon. Not reckless, but relentless. He read the traffic, managed the tires, and attacked in waves. From pit lane to the podium, P3 at Interlagos. Another comeback. Another message to the world. The champion never sleeps. But here's where things get tricky, and where most debates on social media fall apart. In 2021, Hamilton ES Mercedes was a rocket ship, one of the most dominant cars in the hybrid era. The Red Bull wasn't slow, but the gap between the top two and the rest of the grid was huge. In 2025, the situation is completely different. The field is tighter than ever. McLaren, Ferrari, Red Bull, and Mercedes are separated by tenths, not seconds. So, while Hamilton's performance was a display of raw dominance, Verstappen's was a masterclass in precision and patience. He didn't have a second per lap to spare, he had thousandths. And he made them count. And that's where context becomes everything. Hamilton in 2021 was under maximum pressure, a championship on the line, media tension sky high, and a psychological war with Verstappen himself. He had everything to lose. Verstappen in 2025, not fighting for a title, but carrying a different kind of pressure, the weight of expectation. When you've already won everything, people don't watch to see you win again. They watch to see if you can still surprise them. And Max did. Not by winning, but by reminding everyone that racing isn't just about the trophy. It's about the fight. If you look at the telemetry and lap time data, Hamilton's Mercedes W12 was running what the team called a spicy engine. A brand-new internal combustion unit turned up to maximum power, something that couldn't be sustained for many races, but was unleashed that weekend. He gained nearly 4 tenths per sector on straights, compared to Verstappen's Red Bull. Meanwhile, Verstappen's RB21 in 2025 didn't have that kind of margin. The grid was too compact, the power units too similar, and overtaking required both precision and discipline. He didn't have the luxury of dominance. He had to create opportunity out of chaos. And that's what makes his performance so fascinating for analysts. It wasn't about brute force, it was about adaptation. He turned a lost weekend into a podium, without a single strategic mistake. So, who was better? The answer is, it depends on what kind of fan you are. If you love power, emotion, and the cinematic comeback, you'll say Hamilton. If you love control, analysis, and cold precision, you'll say Verstappen. Hamilton's comeback was a war. Verstappen's was chess. Both were genius. You don't need to diminish one to appreciate the other. Two eras, two philosophies, one sport. At the end of the day, Formula One isn't about choosing sides, it's about recognizing greatness when it happens. Because what Hamilton did in 2021 and what Verstappen did in 2025 both remind us why we love this sport. It's the art of resilience, the science of perfection, and the poetry of speed. And if you're still arguing about who was better, maybe that's the real beauty of Formula One. It never gives you one answer, only better questions. If you love deep dive analysis, truth over hype, and storytelling with fuel in its veins, subscribe. Because the next lap is always the most important.